All right, I think we're ready. Last time we put that board, the SKR Mini E3, we put that in, installed it. We did check that it worked, um, and it does for the most part. It does not have the right firmware on it for this machine, so it didn't want to home in the Z direction because I believe the firmware that came with the board didn't really know that we were using a bed sensor, a CR Touch, for the Z-axis probe instead of the clicky switch that you would normally have, a limit switch. So, so it doesn't actually print anything right now. So I thought that would be a good time to try and install Klipper. I mean, try as in sometimes there's some issues that you have to figure out. Okay, what exactly process do I do? We should be able to get it installed. Will we get it installed during the stream? Maybe, maybe not. We'll get part of the way done, but there's always the potential that there's some little hurdles we have to overcome. We'll see. So, what do I have? I have this is the board. Well, this is the box that the board came in. This is what we put in there. The only issue that we really had was this particular board doesn't have a terminal block, a screw terminal block for the heatsink fan, and it expects it to be terminated with a plug, a snap-in plug, and ours did not have that. So that's the only issue. We had to overcome that. I still need to really overcome that. We kind of rigged it together to where it'll work, but I need to find one of the plugs and get that done. But we have that working. Here was our old board. We could have actually, in fact, this board was already running Klipper. We don't need the new board in order to run Klipper. Klipper will run on almost any that I can think of board. In fact, it's best. The biggest improvements are when you take a really old board, like the older than this board, and use Klipper to operate those machines. But why I changed this board out was mainly these drivers right here. So these, under these heat sinks, the little black metal fins there, underneath those are the stepper motor drivers. And they are what are sending the signals to the actual stepper motors for the X-axis, the Y, Z, and the extruder. And they are what we would call non-silent, I guess. And when you operate with this board, the machine, the printer itself, is a little bit noisy whenever it's moving around. In fact, you can probably go on YouTube. I didn't go look this up. You can probably go and find some 3D printer music or something like that. I don't know the exact, stepper music might be the search term. And you can force different frequencies of stepper motor noise and make them play little sounds. Like you can make them play the Super Mario theme and stuff like that because they're not silent. So the new board, this one, it uses drivers that, it looks like my video froze up. I'm not sure why it's doing that lately. The drivers on the new board are silent drivers, and so it is a much quieter operator. It's a little bit unnerving the first time you hear it because you don't hear anything. You hear the fans running, but there's not an actual sound coming from the stepper motors. So it's a silent driver. So that's the real reason we switched out the board. We could have run Klipper on this board we already had. We will need some kind of single board computer. Most people use Raspberry Pi. So this is not the one we'll use. This is the one I was using before. This time I'm going to use this one. So it's actually down in here. So same thing. This is a Pi Model 3 B Plus. So it's one of the older boards. I think they're on 5 now. Is the newer boards. So this is one of the older boards, and it will run Klipper just fine. Why I've got it in here is because we're also, at the same time, I had this screen. This is a little touch screen. And let's see, I guess it goes that way for you. And we're going to use it for hopefully interfacing with our machine via touchscreen. And so we'll have this little 7-inch screen running. Let's see, what else do we need? We need a cable. So this is actually an important part. We'll need a USB cable to go from the Pi to the printer. And I don't know how many times I have got through the whole, or done the start of the process and gotten stuck where I couldn't get the Raspberry Pi to communicate with the actual printer. And it was because I grabbed a USB cable thinking I'll just plug it in, and it was just a charge cable. All it did was charge up a phone or something like that. So if you're having issues with connecting the Pi to the printer, make sure you actually have a data USB cable. So it's actually powering and transmitting data back and forth. Because if you don't send the data from the Pi to the printer, then it's not going to do anything. And it'll look like it will, because it'll send the power, which will power on the printer. The screen will be on. The printer will even do some things. It's not enough power to run the printer, like heat the heater, but it'll do some stuff. So it'll look like everything's fine, but it's not. So make sure you actually have a data cable. I actually colored this one little orange here to make sure that I remember this is a data cable and not a charge only cable. All right, so I think that's all the stuff we need. We need a printer. We already got that. The first stuff that we need to do is we need to get Klipper running on the Raspberry Pi. And there are a couple of different ways to do that. Let's go over to, let's see. It'll be blank for a minute. We will fix that up. There we go. All right. So one way, and the way that we're going to start with anyway, is we're going to, did I not go to the right one? That's the Canvas page. Here's the actual GitHub page. We're going to use the Klipper installation and update helper. I have no idea how you actually pronounce this, but it's, Kia, I don't know. It's on GitHub. Can you see the, you can't see the title for it, but you can search for this on GitHub and it'll take you to the GitHub page. There's the, you can see that part at least. There's the place the repository is located. And what this will do is not only will it help you get the pieces of Klipper installed that you want to run, it will help you keep them updated. So that's a nice feature here. It's just a little script that will do this. Now for this to work, and we can start reading prerequisites here, it's a script that assists you installing Klipper on a Linux operating system. So the Linux operating system is going to be on the Pi. It's going to be running on the Pi. You do have to have a little bit of Linux knowledge or follow a tutorial like we're going to do in order to get this done. But basically the difference in the Raspberry Pis and the single board computers and something like an Arduino is that the single board computers, like the Raspberry Pi, they're full-blown computers. They have inputs and outputs. You can hook up a monitor to them. You can hook up a keyboard to them. And something like an Arduino is just a microcontroller. So you can get input and output, and you can do some things similar, but it doesn't run a whole operating system on there. It's just doing some kind of data in, data out, some processing a little bit, that whatever you code it to do, but it's not a whole computer. So these Raspberry Pis they're complete computers, minus you have to supply your own monitor and keyboard. Actually, there is some of the Pis, the Pi 400 and Pi 500, that they are the keyboard also. You still have to plug in a monitor. Anyway, we got to put an operating system on that Raspberry Pi, and it needs to be a Linux operating system. And it says that's already been flashed to your Raspberry Pi or other SBC, a single board computer. So on their SD card. So the way that these work, your computer, your laptop or whatever, the operating system is kind of built into it. Whereas on the Pi, the operating system exists on an SD card. So I could take a little SD card, like I've got over here. I've got a couple. I could take one of these little SD cards and put a Linux operating system on there, plug that into the Pi, and it's a Linux computer. I could put a different SD card in there that has a retro game emulator, and now it's emulating Atari games or whatever. So whatever we put on these SD cards is going to determine what the Raspberry Pi is doing at that time. And so we need to put a operating system on one of those SD cards. And actually, where did I put the SD card we're going to use? I guess I could use one of those, but I think I had another one. Maybe it's in the Pi. let me check and see. I don't know what I did with the thing. We'll look and see. So let's open this guy up. I don't think I see it in there. Yeah, so there's the little slot. We need to put an SD card in there. Well, all right. So we had a little blip there. All right. So I plugged in the. Oh, stop. All right. I plugged in the card, and the first thing I see is this little pop-up that says you need to format the disk. Don't worry about that. We're not trying to use it for a Windows PC, so just cancel out of any format thing. All right. So we must ensure we have functional Linux system, and they say the Raspberry Pi OS Lite is recommended. So okay, and then it says that the official Raspberry Pi imager is the simplest way to flash an image like this to an SD card. So our Pi imager, Raspberry Pi imager, that is what we're going to use. So you would need to download that. I already have it somewhere. I need to just fire it up. Let's see. So you'll get a screen like this. And if you haven't updated it in a while, you'll usually get a message that this is not the most recent version. Do you want to update? So ours apparently is the most recent version. Okay, let me get that out of the way. All right, once you've downloaded and installed that, choose OS, Raspberry Pi, Other, and select OS Lite. All right, so choose device. First of all, we need to make sure that you're actually imaging the SD card, not your hard drive or something like that, because that would be disaster. So let's make sure that, well, we're going to put this on this is the device we're going to put it on. I was talking about the storage location. So we're going to put this on a Pi B+, Pi 3 B+. So there's different ones. I would say that the 3B is probably the lowest level one. You can run them on the W's, so the little smaller computers, but sometimes it gets a little bit sluggish. So I would do a Pi 3B or B+ as the minimum one. We're going to do the Pi 3 B+. And then here's our operating system. It said to choose Raspberry Pi OS Other. So there they are. And then it says OS Lite 32-bit. There it is right there. And the Lite version means that it's not going to have a desktop that you can go to. It's only going to be command line type of interface. But that's fine, because we're not going to use it as an actual hook it up to a monitor and a keyboard and that kind of thing. So that's fine. Choose the storage. Here are some of the disks that are installed. I want to make sure that I'm using the correct one. So I've got a 250 gigabyte USB. That's a thumbstick. That's not the one that we put in there. I've got a 64 gigabyte. I don't think that's the right one either. I think we just put this 32 mounted as H. Let me actually check and make sure that H is the one that we want. No, it's not H. That is not the one we want. Is it I? Yes. Yes, it is this one that came up as I and J. It actually has two different partitions on it. Yes, so we want the IJ. What's a 64 gigabyte? Okay. So I wonder where I've plugged in the 32 gigabyte thing. It must be somewhere in the back. All right, so we want that one. Actually, let me I'm going to unplug it. and make sure that this thing is 64. It is 64. We don't need 64 gigabytes of storage space to make this work, but that's the one I had. So, and I noticed that time it came up as J. All right. The other thing we want to do, let me cancel out of all the you need to format this disk options. The other thing we need to do is the way we're going to communicate with this is through our Wi-Fi. Now I've set up a hotspot because if it gets all confused if I'm trying to use the actual stream Wi-Fi. So I've got my PC running a hotspot that I will use to connect to the Raspberry Pi. I need to tell the Raspberry Pi what the login credentials are for that hotspot. Let's see. Back in the Raspberry Pi's menu, make sure that you want to choose the right image. We did that. Go into the advanced icon and enable your SSH and configure your Wi-Fi. Now, this one does not have a cog in it. I think if you click next, yeah, all right. So if you click next, would you like to apply the OS customization settings? Pops up. This is in the more recent versions of the Pi Imager. I'm on 1.9.6 right now. If we do edit settings, that will let us edit the username, password. Looks like I've already put the password. So I just made Klipper test the name of this hotspot. If you're in a work environment, a lot of times it's tough. Like if your Wi-Fi is Enterprise Edition that you're connecting to, it can be tough to get one of these guys connected to that, to get the Raspberry Pi connected to an Enterprise Edition, and then be able to talk to it, because you don't know what IP address it gets assigned. You know, if it's a dynamic IP address, you fire up your Raspberry Pi and it connects to the Enterprise Edition and it's connected, but you can't tell how to talk to it. So if you're in that kind of environment, if you have a Windows PC, type hotspot into your search bar, and most of them, the newer ones, will let you create a mobile hotspot locally. That's kind of like your phone, except it's running off of the Wi-Fi or the Ethernet that your computer is connected to, and you can connect to that. And that's what we're doing here. So I named it Klipper Test, and then I gave it a password. I have no idea. This probably is not the right password. I think I called the password password. So there we go. Let me type that in there to make sure that that's correct. You can go ahead and tell it you're in what time zone and all that kind of stuff. It did say it wanted us to use SSH, so I don't think I need to change that here, though. All right, so we did that. Now we want to apply those settings. It does give you a warning that whatever is on that card that you're about to image is going to be erased. So are you sure you've got the right one selected? Pretty sure. We'll click yes. Oh, I see that other drive. Let me unplug it just to make sure. There we go. Just so I don't accidentally write something over it. I saw where it was plugged in at. Normally, also, when you unplug these from here on out, you want to, the USB stick with the SD card in it, you want to eject the drive. There are cases, pretty regular, where you get a corruption error if you don't eject the disk. Oh, I saw something in the chat. Oh, got a lot of emojis and thank you. So this process is not terribly slow, but it does take a little bit of, a few minutes. It's going to write the Raspberry Pi OS Lite. This is not doing Klipper. This is just putting that operating system on the SD card. It's going to write it, and then it'll verify it. And once it's done all of that, that SD card we can take over to our Pi over here, which is all in disarray. We're going to need some power. I have that down here, I think. Is this it? Huh. Somehow it's hung up under this table. So let me show you this. The Raspberry Pi, you power it through a USB port right here. And the Raspberry Pi itself doesn't have an on-off switch. So I like using this little guy, which has the matching USB, and it'll let you plug in your actual power USB here, and then it adds a switch. This is called the Pi switch, is the one this way. I'm sure there are others, but I like this because it lets me turn off the Pi with this button, this little button, versus having to unplug it here. So I do recommend getting something like that. That's just a much easier way of turning your Pi on and off. Usually you can get them on Amazon by themselves. I think what I normally do is when I'm buying a Pi is I get a kit that has the power plug, it has this, it has the Pi itself, and it has an SD card in there. And because you're going to need all those things. You're going to need something to power the Pi. You're going to need, you don't have to have the switch. I just like that it's a switch versus just unplugging it to turn it off. You are going to need a power supply. And if you don't get the right amperage and voltage power supply, you'll get warnings from your Pi that it's under voltage, and it might work, but it's going to be iffy if it's continuously working. You know, it might brown out. So I usually get a kit that has all that stuff in it. And you don't have to have latest and greatest Pi you for this purpose. Klipper is pretty comparatively, I guess, lightweight, and so it is going to do some heavy-duty processing, but it's so much more powerful than the chips that are currently certainly on the printers that I'm using. Maybe some of the more modern, most modern, higher-end printers use basically a built-in Pi, but it's going to be plenty. Even the 3B plus, it's going to be plenty for what we need. So it looks like we're verifying over here. We're at 73% verified. Hopefully all that goes through and we can carry on with our Klipper install. All right, we're getting close. I assume if it was going to have problems, it would have told us that. All right, so now this is important. It says there were, you can remove it. This thing popped up with the, you need to format this disk. Do not do that. That'll start all over again, and it'll actually format it for a Windows PC. So do not do that. Cancel that. And then this continue is okay. This continue came from the Pi Imager. That other one came from Windows. And because it had recognized that you had, it's like you had inserted that SD card again. And it thought, oh, well, I can't recognize this format. And do you want to format it so I can use it? Don't do that. Continue here. We're done with Pi Imager. There is another route we can take where you can install Klipper from here, but it's not installing the automatic update thing. So we're going to try this route first. All right, let's close the Pi Imager. I'm going to eject the SD card because I don't want to, I think now it's drive F. No? Which one? Oh, it's still I. All right. All right, safe to remove hardware. You can usually just unplug them, but I found that too many times it creates a corruption that the Pi doesn't like. So here's our new, this is Raspberry Pi OS Lite. Now we just plug this guy in here. This little cable right here is connecting the Pi to the screen here. So I don't know what will show up on this screen, but we're not going to use it right now. So let's get that cable kind of routed around there. Plug this guy in. Let's see what it would say. You can use main cell OS with Klipper pre-installed. Yeah, that's true. Yes, you can. I've never done it this way where I started with the automatic updater. So I want to try it and see what the difference is. The last times I have done it, I did what you described there, where I just installed the automatic updater afterwards. Oh, let's see. All right, so I plugged in power, and we're gonna turn on the screen, or we'll turn on the Pi. I don't actually know if the screen will. Oh, you know what? I didn't power the screen, did I? I did not. So the screen's not going to do anything right now. So the screen has its own power supply that I need a little Y adapter that would be an easy way to do that. So we won't have anything on the screen right now. What I need to have happen is I need to have it show up in my list of hotspots. So far I don't have anything there. I'll give it let me make sure I can even see that it's doing stuff. So there's a little light. Yeah, you can kind of see down in there. There's a red and a green light, and those are telling you that it's got power. And then the flashing is it's trying to connect to the network, but for whatever reason, it is not currently connecting. So, oh wait, there it goes. All right. So here's what I got. Actually, is that it? I don't know what else would have popped up as main cell. That's. Let me see what that. All right, so. It did connect. All right, I think it connected, but it doesn't know what to do with it. All right. So let's go back to our instructions here. So I think we've got it connected, although it looks a little bit odd. So now I need to actually go into the Pi and run some commands there. Now, what I haven't usually done is hook up a keyboard, a screen to the Pi itself, and try to operate directly on the Pi. What I normally do is I remote into the Pi, and I usually use PuTTY, which I didn't check to make sure that is on this computer, but I think it is. Yes, so PuTTY, P-U-T-T-Y. This will let me connect to it, assuming I know its IP address. This is where it gets tricky if you're in like an enterprise environment. So you're at school or at work, you've got enterprise system, but you know a username and password, so you can get connected to the system, but you don't have a way to know the IP address of what that thing that you just booted up, where it's located. Like, it's sitting there right beside you, but you have no idea what its IP address is. And so you can't log into it with something like this because its IP address could be one of thousands of numbers. So if you are in that situation, there is a way that how I've done that before is you get your Linux system running, and what you have it do is one of the first things after it gets connected to the Enterprise Edition, or not Enterprise Edition, Enterprise Network, the secure network at work or at school is it sends you either an email or a text message of its IP address. So it's a little bit tricky. Usually I have it send me an email with, hey, I just got on the internet and I just got on the network and my IP address is, and it spits out its IP address. And then you can go to your email, find that IP address, and carry on what you're doing here. It's way easier to just set up a local hotspot and operate with that. Sometimes your work or school network administrator doesn't allow that. Like, it doesn't allow you to do that, but it usually will allow you to use your PC's hotspot. All right. Anyway, let's type in this address and see what happens. It was 192.168.137.192. So the 192 that's like your local computer. All right. Let's see. Connection refused. All right. So that's a little odd. So what I'm going to do is let's go back over here and let's see. I'm going to turn it off. Let's check this SD card on the PC, on the Windows PC. So take it out of there. You got to be careful taking these out because they're not spring-loaded like a lot of them are. You just pull them straight out, but they hang over the board a little bit so you can grab a hold of them. But sometimes these things are super brittle and you can crack them. So you have to be a little careful. Don't be reckless. All right, let's see what's on this thing. So again, every time you put this in your PC, it's going to ask you to format it. Don't do that. Cancel that. All right, so it gave me this. This looks okay. Okay-ish. You know, we may have to just seeing what all we have in here. So I think they removed the little file, the WPA supplicant that lets you configure your Wi-Fi directly. I think they removed that from here, but it did want to connect to the oh no, this is something else because it's still showing connected and that's not even running. So I don't know what that is that connected. A little strange. Why don't we do this the way that I normally do? Because this is being a little bit of a issue. All right, so I'm going to put it on the 3. Nope, that's a 0, 2, 3. We're going to, I think it's in the general purpose OS. No, it's not an OS. Other specific purpose. 3D printing. And then the main cell OS, Klipper firmware, and Moonraker API ready to print. Let's do that one. So these Octoprint, Octopi, and OctoClipperPi, that's another route you can take, but it doesn't, well, the OctoClipperPi, I guess, does. The Octoprint and Octopi were, you just wanted to connect to the printer remotely. You just wanted to be able to use your internet, local internet to your network to sit at your computer and send files or monitor the printer. It didn't actually do any of the special features that Klipper added. That was the Octopi. Now they've got an Octo Klipper Pi. I haven't used that one much, but it does a similar thing. But if you're going to do that, unless you just had a bunch of macros, you were already an OctoPi, Octoprint user, and you had a bunch of stuff already set up, I wouldn't do this one. I would just do the main cell. Let's do this one. Choose our storage. We're on the G and I now. And let's edit our settings. It did put that in here. It's not a hidden SSID though, so I don't know why we need that. I'm not going to change the host name or the username and password. I'm not going to set those differently. I'm going to use the default ones. I did not enable the SSH. That's what I may not have done. I might have needed to do that. But then I need to set a username and password over here. Shop, I think that's the name of this computer. I don't think I need that in this instance because no one else can get to this Wi-Fi to even connect to it without being close enough to connect, and there's nobody around here. So I don't think I need to do that right now. Yes. So let's rewrite that, but maybe we won't use the automatic updater. Let's go back and look at it so I can show you what while it's doing its thing. So these steps, I'm just going back to what I have done before. I wanted to do it this way, but there's something I'm missing. And it might be that I had to do, because it does say to enable SSH. What we would need to do is log into the Pi, and we'll still need to do that. But we need to get the actual Klipper installed on it. And we can, like you mentioned in the comment, we could do that. Cherry Pi. You don't have to use Raspberry Pis. You can use BeagleBones and other things. Almost all of the tutorials and almost all of the things you'll find online reference the Raspberry Pi. There are very few that I've ever seen resources to help you walk through anything other than using a Raspberry Pi, but there are other single board computers. Let's see. Let's go over to the Klipper site. Is this Klipper? Nope, that's not Klipper. Klipper, not Klipper.org, Klipper3D.org, I think. Yes. Let's see. Installing the Klipper software. So, one thing that's going to be an issue in the coming minutes anyway is that not only do you have to get Klipper running on your Raspberry Pi, you have to also tell your printer that it's not, the board on your printer is not in control anymore. It's just the low-level input-output stuff. So we do have to create a piece of like mini firmware for the printer. I use a repurposed 15-inch. Oh yeah, for the KlipperScreen, you can use anything that your Raspberry Pi can connect to. Look at these things. You've got on most of these, you've got a real HDMI. Some of them have a mini or a micro HDMI, but the bigger ones, the full-size boards, they have a full-blown HDMI. They have audio, so you can connect a monitor to the Raspberry Pi if you wanted to. The one that I'm connecting through this is also a touchscreen, so I don't know how you would create a touchscreen out of like a monitor. You'd have to have a special monitor that would also plug into USB. You don't have USB-C on these. It is the, which one is this? B? Whatever USB this is, the regular one. There might be the little boards. They might have a USB-C on them. You've got Wi-Fi built into almost all of these boards. The little boards, you have to make sure that you get one of the W's for the Wi-Fi. Audio, This is a camera, so you can connect a Pi cam here, but you can also connect just a webcam to here. This one has Ethernet if you have Ethernet options available. Oh, okay, you're just doing Linux. Okay, yes, but until you've actually used one of these Pis, you don't realize kind of all that they can do. The new ones, the Pi 5s, are kind of expensive. And during COVID, even these things, I don't know what it was, but I guess the supply chain issues and everything that were happening similar times made these kind of really expensive. These used to be super cheap. And now, I don't know what a Pi 3. Let's see where we're at on our installation here. All right, we're still writing. Let's look at what are they going for these days. I don't know if we reconnected. All right, so we it decided to stop working there for a second. Here's the Raspberry Pi 3. Yeah, that's like the basic one. The one I'm using here, Pi Model 3 B Plus, kind of the lower end, still $47. They used to be a lot cheaper. I'm seeing some comments I can't see. Oh, yeah. Yep. So here's one of those kits I was talking about that has the power supply, the little switch, the has some heat sinks in it. $80 for a B3, 3B, I guess is the right way to say that. So they're not super cheap as like they once were. You could get these for under $20 easy. So they're a little bit more expensive, but if you're interested in it, by the time you actually get all the pieces you need, unless you have them on hand, some of these kits, now this one actually has the SD card in it also, can be $100. Here's one of those smaller. This is a 2, so do be careful. Bestseller everything. This one, the Pi 2W, this one would have trouble doing all the stuff you want Klipper to do. I've seen people get it to work, but it's not really up to what you want. So there are some cheaper Pis out there, the Pi Pico, stuff like that, but they aren't going to have quite the processing power to do what you want Klipper to actually do. So be careful with some of these cheaper ones. I don't see any great deals on the Pi. There's a Pi 5 though. It's only $76. Same form factor, except that the HDMI is the micro HDMI. And it does look like it has USB-C on it. This is the little Pi cam. Actually, this is Arduino cam. There's a similar thing like this that will plug into this little spot over here if you don't want to use one of your USB ports for a USB camera. We're still writing. So the this one that we're writing with the Pi right now, it takes longer to install than the one we just tried to do that didn't work for us. All right, let's see. What can we do while it's doing its thing? I think our printer is set up, ready to go, ready to receive it. Do I have any stuff to show while we wait? I'm looking around. I've shown you some of the filament that I recently got in. I still have not gotten in the Timeplast filament. I got an email saying that due to the demand of whatever, I guess they had a ad campaign and a lot of people tried out some of their filament. Anyway, due to that, it's taking like a week now to ship. That was the soap filament, and there was one that was a fire-based one where it was meant to be flammable, and they had a whole bunch of them. So I still haven't gotten that in. Oh, I did see something. Let me find this for you real quick. Let me send you over here while I look for it. I don't know what this is going to end up being, but this is pretty interesting. Let me see if I can get it on the screen where you can see the whole thing. There we go. So this is supposedly, again, this is Kickstarter, so you don't know what it's actually going to be, but the idea is that it is a soft gel, so, rubbery material, silicone type stuff, injection molding desktop injection molding. It's very manual. You supply the pressure for the injection part, but it's $200. Well, it depends, depending on if you are the VIP club, all that kind of stuff. You can get a $50 discount. So it's somewhere between $200 and $250 on Kickstarter. This is interesting because, and it relates to 3D printing, because I think one of the things that they want to be able to do with this is, one, soft, rubbery injection molding at home, desktop, pretty cheap, $200 for injection molding machine. And with it being a softer, not as hot material, you can 3D print the molds. Now, I don't know if you can FDM 3D print the molds or not. Looking at here, it says it can use PLA and PETG because the injection temperature, well, it shows a range of 176, this is Fahrenheit, to 410 Fahrenheit. 410 Fahrenheit is probably pretty hot for PETG, so I don't know. But down here it shows 356, also pretty hot for PETG. So I don't know what the actual range is, but I did back this. I assume it won't come in anytime during the summer. Hopefully it'll be here at some point, around Christmas or sometime. So maybe for next summer I can have it and show what it can do, if anything. But it looked interesting. So normally injection molding, for one, it's usually a more rigid plastic, not a soft gel plastic. But so it's like almost everything plastic is injection molded. But even the cheap desktop injection molding for that kind of plastic is pretty expensive. We have one at school, and I think it was $20,000 for a small injection molding machine. You can kind of make your own, and there's some kits that are way cheaper, $1,200, something like that. But this one, I'm interested to see. It's not going to inject rigid plastic. It is going to specifically for the softer, rubbery stuff. But there are use cases. They're showing fishing lures, RC tires, stuff like that, animatronics, things like that. So it's interesting to see. Here's kind of the idea of it, injecting into. Now some of these, they're just kind of showing. I don't know what they're doing there. Oh, that's an eggshell mold. So you print the outer surface and break it away later. But they're showing the idea being that you could possibly 3D print some of these molds. We'll see. I just thought it was interesting, and it was recent. They just opened their campaign yesterday, I think, last night maybe. So that's a different way. Another thing I do have on hand is a little tiny vacuum forming machine in the similar price range. I think it's a little more than $200 though. I will show that off with the idea that can you 3D print with regular-ish materials and use those as bucks or patterns in the vacuum forming. We're in the verifying stage, so we're almost there on this part. Let's see. I guess you don't have to verify. I could cancel the verify and just assume it all went well. I think it won't take that many more minutes for us to actually get this part up and going. Let's go to our Klipper thing. All right, so I was saying last time we were on this page, I was saying that we need to tell our machine, the printer itself, that it's going to take commands from this Raspberry Pi running Klipper. So we do have to create that little piece of firmware, and the particular board that we got, the SKR board, makes it a little bit troublesome. So we have to do a little bit of manual. We don't have to write code or anything. We just have to do a little bit of more manual of a process. Most of the boards, like the board that was already in here, this guy, we can have a more automated process for flashing new firmware to it to tell it to talk to Klipper. But the SKR board, I think in general, it forces us to do a little bit more manual process. Not a big deal, but we will try to do that. It does talk about using the automatic updater. I'm not sure why my OS Lite was not working. Maybe it was just not connected to the internet the right way. But I think we're close. 79%. Maybe we'll get at least connected today and be able to talk to it, do some of the parts. I don't know that we'll get it with looking at the clock. Not sure we'll get it completely up and running today. While we wait, let me tell you some of the things that Klipper can do that we might want to even do this with. It does not, so Klipper does not do the silent driver thing. That's the board itself, the SKR. What Klipper will let us do, one, it's going to add Wi-Fi so that we can remotely communicate with our printer. Like we can get on our phone or on another computer that can connect to that same network. However you set up your network is kind of important. Right now we're just using a local hotspot, but you may want to be off somewhere else on your phone. You're not at home and you want to talk with your printer. You can make it do that. I'm not going to set that up right now, not on the stream anyway. The danger, if there's a danger with that, the danger is that if you can get to your printer remotely, then you have some pathway that potentially other people could get to your printer remotely. And that might not be a thing you want. You want to be careful with that network security. Anyway, so it gives you that. The other things it does is now that we're running a full-blown computer to run this printer, we can process the G-code in new ways. So some of the things we can do, looks like we finished our verification. Do not format this disk. Some of the things we can do include being able to read the G-code in real time on the Raspberry Pi and look at it and say predict vibrations that are going to occur on your printer and account for them. So if you want to draw a straight line on your printer, but you know that the Raspberry Pi knows that, hey, if I'm going to go around this corner, then my printer is going to oscillate. It's going to vibrate in a certain pattern, a certain frequency. I can tell it, instead of drawing a straight line, draw the opposite squiggly line, and it'll end up straight because I'm accounting for the vibrations that I know are going to happen printing on my printer at a certain speed and a certain acceleration. And so you can do that in real time, and you can print faster that way. So the other way to avoid all those ringing and vibrations in your printer is just print slower. But if you want to print faster, then you have to account for those vibrations somehow. Maybe you can like mechanically get your printer to not vibrate to some level, but at some point it's going to be too fast and it's going to vibrate, and so you can just account for them. So you can calculate that real time as the G-code is coming in to the Raspberry Pi. All right, so that's another, and it's stuff like that, the increased processing power that now I'll be able to do. All right, I think we can close this guy. Let's eject our card. Let's see, is it this one? No, I'm getting the wrong one. That one. Okay. Let's go back over here. Let's see if we get anything better. We need some power. Where'd my power go? Oh, it's still plugged in. I just need to turn it on. There's the button. Alright, so there's our power, and it's trying to connect to a network. Let's see what we have. Did I close down my hotspot? I'm not seeing a lot of network activity. You know, I get a little bit there. I would expect a little more than that, though. Oh, like that. All right. So maybe we'll get something to connect here in a minute. Okay. Still nothing. I'm looking on my screen. I'm looking at what's connected to my hotspot. And so far, there are 0 devices connected. Although over here, I'm seeing an attempt to connect. So let's see. I'll give it a few minutes. Not minutes, but a few seconds, I guess. Okay, so I did get a connection here. Let's see what I have. What number was that? 87. Let's see what we get over here. I still get the refused connection. Oh wait, it just wasn't ready. All right, let's try this. I know you can't see what I'm typing at the moment, but there's nothing to see. I know I'm forgetting, and it might be the SSH issue. I think that's the actual issue, but I think we might can fix that. Let's see if we can fix it here. All right, so let's get this card. Let's turn this off. I think I should have checked the SSH box, but maybe we can. Don't format. Oh, here you go. All right. Oh, look, we've got a Wi-Fi README here. But I think maybe this is the root directory. Let's see if we can just add an SSH folder and let it work. But let's see what the Wi-Fi README says in this one. Oh, go over. Come on. All right. Okay, so here, this is talking about editing. I don't know if you, yeah, you can see most of that. Camera froze up again. This is talking about editing a file, and it's talking specifically about using a decent text editor. So Notepad++ is the one I normally use. What it's meaning here is that don't use to edit files for something like this. Like if you want to put your login information directly or whatever, don't use something like Word or an actual word processor, because what will happen is those systems, those programs will add extra information, metadata, like it adds the date that you edited it, it adds the username that edited, it adds all this other stuff that can confuse the software trying to run this file. So if this is a configuration file for your Wi-Fi or whatever, you don't want all that extra data and information, mainly because it will not work. Not that you're giving away the date or something like that, but it's that it won't work. So use something like Notepad. I usually use Notepad++, but you can use basic Notepad and it's fine. Not WordPad. specifically that same thing. So use the editor like a text editor. I use Notepad++. And then when you save it, you want to save as just plain text, so that it doesn't add any of those characters that are going to essentially corrupt your file. Alright, so how do I set up a network on my main cell OS? Copy and paste the headless nm.text.template. Let's see if that's in here. Right there. So, oh, now I clicked on it and I can't see my README anymore. So there's that file. Do not use, alright, yeah. Open the file with your favorite text editor, again, Notepad. Valid country codes, so we will be US. Remove the SD card, almost done, input. Alright, so let's look at that file. Oh wait, I have to rename it something. How would I have to rename it? Oh, I have to take the template off. Alright, so over here, let's open with, or edit with Notepad++. And it tells me this configuration file is used to set up a Wi-Fi connection, blah, blah, blah. Let's see. The SSID. I called my little hotspot, what did I call it? Klipper test, I think. And I call it the password. My secret password, I actually called it password. I don't think it's hidden, so we can leave false. And specify the country code. We're not Great Britain, we are US. Alright, file, save as, because we want to take off that template part. Normal text file, and we're going to remove template. We probably could have done this before, maybe, on the other thing. I didn't actually pay attention. Close down this, and there's our new, hopefully going to help us connect. We also did add the SSH folder. I probably should have checked that, but I didn't. Eject. Let's see what happens. So we're back over here, and let's get this guy in here. Turn it on. Power came on. It's doing its little try to connect thing. Let's see what happens now. Although it did connect before, so the connecting wasn't the problem. It was me being able to connect to it. It wouldn't let me connect. Alright, so it's back. Same address it had last time. Let's see if we can actually get to it. Oops, typed the wrong thing. It is still not letting me connect to it though. Can I see it on here? Alright, so I can see it here. Oh wait, you can't see that. So I can't see it here. So I'll have to work on why it won't let me log into the Pi directly, but I can see it here. So this is what you get to when you get Klipper on the Pi running. So first of all, it says that I don't know what I'm doing. There is no config file. There's no printer config file. And what this means is that Klipper, this is the main cell interface for Klipper. That's running. So Klipper exists, but it doesn't know what kind of printer it is going to be communicating with. And so you need to build a printer.cfg file. So usually you don't want to build these from scratch. And I think I had found one. Yes, I found one here. Now, is this the one that I want to use? I don't know, but it is a printer CFG for a Ender 3. Now, this is a version 2 but it's running the SKR Mini E3 version 3, which is the board that I have. I don't have a Ender 3 version 2, but I do have this SKR board. So you can either build these from scratch, which is probably not what you want to do, unless you know exactly what you want your printer to run, or you can find a pre-built one somewhere on the internet. So this one's on GitHub, and this is the file that we're looking for. What it's going to do is it's going to tell what kind of stepper motor is on the x-axis and what pin is it connected to, and are you doing micro stepping and all this kind of stuff. Maybe you don't know what some of those mean, so you probably don't want to build it yourself, but for X, Y, Z, well, no, X, I don't know, why do I have 2 in here? Oh, this one's weird. Maybe I don't want to use this configuration file. They have one here for stepper X, and then they have one for TMC 2209. TMC 2209 is the driver, the stepper drivers on the SKR board, these things. So the guys under here are the stepper drivers. The 2209 is what the model number is for the SKR board, and that's a popular model in general. Now, why they have a separate one for it versus regular stepper, I'm not sure what they're doing there. There's one for Y, same thing. Z, same thing. The extruder, there's the PI. Actually, these are commented out, so I would need to set up. That means they probably have a PID tune down here at the bottom. Yes, down here. So all of these numbers will work, but they need to be set for my machine. But you need a configuration file telling it what kind of drivers it's using, how big is the printer, what are your maximum printing temperatures, things like that have to be built. So if I wanted to use this one, I would copy it, and then I could go over to my machine, and there's not a configure file here at all, so I could add one. Call it printer.cfg, CFG, and then I can edit it. So I just clicked on it, and I can just paste in all that stuff, and I could save and restart. So it's going to restart the Klipper program main cell. Now it doesn't have a fluid configure file. So what it's saying here is in that configuration I just built, apparently it says to include, yeah, it does right there at the very first line. So we can just comment that out for now. Now what my error? Bed mesh. All right, so bed mesh is for the meshing of the surface of the bed with my probe. So using the probe here to map out the surface of the bed if it's tilted or valley or a heel or something that's wavy somehow. What my Klipper is telling me is that I don't know, you asked me to do this. Apparently in the printer config it asked for bed mesh somewhere. I don't see it right now. Oh, there it is. But it doesn't know what that means. And let's see, what's the actual error? Oh, the configuration file does not exist. So I either need to create that file or probably go back to where I got it from, and there's the, let's see, scripts maybe? I don't know where he put in this one. I don't know where he put the bed mesh configuration file. I think probably what I would do is find one. I think maybe what I would do is find a different printer configuration file than this one. This one looks like it's got a lot of things that are dependent on other things, which may not be what you want to do to start out with. But so I got to get that printer configuration file, and I also need to be able to get into. I need to be able to have the printer itself, the Ender 3, receive information from Klipper. So we need to get all that running. I don't think we can do that in 5 minutes. So I think that'll have to be Friday. So right now we do have Klipper. It does not talk to our printer. We are having trouble talking to it from a remote, like from my PC. I have to work on that. But we're almost there. We're getting close. So probably what I'll do is I'll find a more appropriate printer configuration file than this one. This one looks a little bit much for what we want to do. We just want to print right now. We'll add, as we get to new things, we'll add the bed mesh and all that kind of stuff. We don't need that to get started. So we'll come back on Friday, finish this thing up, and we will go from there. Hopefully we're printing on Friday, and then Monday we've got maybe 6 or 7 classes left, something like that. Not many. One of those is the contest. Don't forget about that. And we will do the vacuum forming. We still need to print our canopy. We still need to print our front landing gear for the X30. And we're getting close. So if you have any ideas for the last bits of what you want to do before the whole course ends, then let me know, and we'll see if we can squeeze those in, if they're a thing that's doable on the stream. But we'll see you on Friday.